I never expected a Father's Day gift to break me or save me.
I never expected a Father's Day mug to change my life. I never thought it would break me open, strip me down, and force me to build myself back up, piece by piece. But that's exactly what happened, because sometimes the smallest cruelty reveals the biggest truth. My name is Mike, and until last summer, I was the man who kept life stitched together for a family who never saw the seams I was holding. I was the one who paid the mortgage, fixed the leaks, shoveled the driveway, and cooked breakfast on weekends, all while smiling through the exhaustion. I wasn't perfect, but I was steady, dependable, present. Turns out none of that matters when the people you love don't actually value you. Father's Day began like any other morning. The sun was streaming into the kitchen. The air still smelled faintly of syrup. My stepdaughter Ashley was perched on the counter, phone in hand, recording TikToks. My stepson Ben was staring at his phone like it contained all the oxygen in the room. And my wife Rachel was sipping coffee from a mug I bought her on our first anniversary, the one that said, "Love is the little things." She handed me a plain box with a grin that felt too wide to be loving. "Open it," she chirped. Ashley aimed her phone at me. Ben lifted his head just enough to watch. I peeled open the box, and inside was a plain white ceramic mug. On it, in big black letters, were the words, "World's Biggest Disappointment." They exploded with laughter. Loud, ugly laughter that filled the kitchen. Rachel was slapping her knee. Ashley was practically crying from how funny she thought it was. Even Ben, who looked a little uncomfortable, kept filming. "Your face." Rachel cackled. "Come on, it's just a joke." You can take a joke, right? But it wasn't a joke. It was a confession. It was a confession of how little they thought of me, of the contempt hidden beneath every harmless jab, of the way I had slowly been eroded into nothing more than a punchline in my own home. I smiled, because smiling had become my survival mechanism. "Wow," I said, my voice steady. "So thoughtful." Rachel kissed my cheek like she was patting a dog, and then she and the kids wandered off into the living room, leaving me alone with a sink full of dirty dishes and a mug that felt like a gravestone for my dignity. As I stood there scrubbing their plates, something inside of me went very, very still. The laughter echoed in my head, but it wasn't funny, it was final. Later that night, after they had all gone to bed, no one ever said Happy Father's Day to me again. I packed a bag. There was no yelling, no dramatic goodbye. No theatrics, I just left. I drove until the exhaustion became louder than the heartbreak. I ended up at the Sunrise Inn, a $49 a night motel with peeling wallpaper and roaches that walked around like they paid rent. I checked in with a fake smile plastered on my face and a real, crushing ache inside my chest. For weeks, I just disappeared. I turned off my phone. I ate convenience store burritos and slept on sheets that smelled like bleach and old sweat. I'd wander the parking lot at night, wondering how I went from being the man who fixed everyone's problems to a man who couldn't even begin to fix his own. When I finally turned my phone back on, it was flooded. 17 missed calls, 34 texts, and a Facebook post from Rachel, claiming I had abandoned the family and that she was worried sick. The comments were a chorus of sympathy, all for her. Not one person knew what she'd done. Not one person knew about the mug. But the thing that finally woke me up wasn't anger. It was clarity, crystal clear clarity. The very next day I went out and got a real shave and a haircut at a place called Sam S. Barbershop. Then I walked into Willow Creek Hardware and asked for a job. The owner, a woman named Karen, hired me on the spot. She said I looked like a man who knew his way around tools and heartbreak. She wasn't wrong. And that's where I met Frank, a retired Marine, part-time philosopher, and full-time no-nonsense mentor. He became the father figure I never knew I needed. One day, I told him the whole story about the mug. He didn't gasp or wince. He just nodded once and said, "People don't laugh at you because you're a joke. They laugh because they think you won't leave." That was the first day I felt like I could breathe again. From that moment on, I started rebuilding myself. I bought a better shirt, a real toolbox. I ate breakfast at Nora's Diner every morning, where the waitress, Betty, learned my order and my silence. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I started a YouTube channel. I called it Fix It Mike, It was just me, my tools, and my sarcastic sense of humor, teaching strangers how to patch drywall, fix hinges, and not lose their sanity in the process. My phone was propped up on a stack of books, my motel room walls the only backdrop I had, and people watched. But the biggest shift came from Ben, my quiet stepson. I wrote him a letter, a real one, handwritten. It was raw and honest. I told him I didn't leave because of him. I told him he mattered to me. 3 days later, he showed up at the local library where I was working on my laptop. He walked up to my table and said, "Dad, not Mike, Dad, we talked for 2 hours. About life, about mistakes, about how he never liked the mug, and about how he felt trapped between loyalty and the truth. I hired a lawyer named Lavra, whose office smelled like pastrami and tough love, and I filed for divorce. I set up a trust, an LLC. I protected every dollar I earned, every tool I owned, every sponsorship I landed. My life was finally mine again. But there's one chapter left: the graduation party. Rachel posted on Facebook, "All are welcome," so I went. I walked into that backyard in clean boots and a new shirt, and the music just stuttered to a stop. Conversations died. Rachel's wine glass froze halfway to her lips. Ashley's face went pale. But Ben grinned like it was Christmas morning. I walked right up to Ashley and handed her a small, gift-wrapped box. Inside was a compact mirror. "For self-reflection," I said quietly. "You might need it." You could hear gasps rippling through the party guests. Rachel finally found her voice and sputtered, "How dare you?" I looked at her. How dare I give your daughter a gift? How dare I show up to a party where all are welcome? How dare I exist? Then I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "You told everyone I abandoned my family." "I didn't. I left the moment you told me, in big, bold letters, exactly what you thought of me. Phones were out, recording everything." "I didn't leave because I was weak," I said, my voice clear and strong. "I left because staying was killing me." I turned around, walked away, got in my truck, and didn't look back. That night I recorded a video for my channel. I told the whole story. I showed them the mug. I showed them the scars, and I showed them the rebirth. It went viral. Hundreds of thousands of views. Messages poured in from men and women who had lived their own versions of my story, people calling the mug a blessing in disguise. 2 weeks later, I got an email from Ashley. It was a real apology. And now? Now that mug sits on my desk. Not as a wound, but as a reminder. A reminder of who I used to be, of how far I've come. And a reminder that sometimes the greatest gift people can give you is the moment they show you exactly who they are. I wasn't the world's biggest disappointment. I was just living with people who were too small to see my worth, and choosing myself. That was the best thing I ever fixed. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever felt unseen or undervalued, know that you're not alone. Hit that subscribe button and let's keep building and fixing together.